Um, I'm just going to preface this reading, right off the bat. This month, I feel that it's going to be a little bit challenging. Okay, so for those who don't want to hear this, you might want to click off, because I do feel that there are some warnings here that I'm seeing, and you might need to be a little bit careful. Okay. Of course, there's always going to be highs and lows, such as life. And so I feel like in the greater scheme of things, things will balance themselves out and kind of like, plateau, okay? Reach like a state of equilibrium and plateau. But I feel like things won't plateau and settle down and stabilize until possibly next year. I'm seeing more like March and April. And so for this month, I feel like there are some major sweeping changes that are coming in. And you might not see the end of it until, the month of March and April, when things kind of mellow out. Okay, so I will say this is not for the faint of heart. Let me just go through the reading, okay? I don't want to scare you. So let me just go through the reading. First of all, I saw one image, and it looks almost like a traditional, watercolor Chinese painting. That's what it looks like. They're like these really tall, high mountain ranges. They reach into the sky, and they're covered with mist. So you can see parts of the mountain range, you can see parts of the hills and things like that. And then there's a river. And everything is just, there's a lot of mist and dew and condensation in the atmosphere, so it's hard to see. So I would say visibility, you can probably only see like 100 feet in front of you. And then I see this boat, and I see this man on the boat. He has like a really long oar. And he's, it's like one of those one-handed, or rather, it just has one paddle. So you're kind of sticking it to the bottom of the river and moving the boat along. So that's what he's doing. And he's dressed in blue. He's dressed in like some blue traditional loose clothing. And then there's a woman in red. She's on the boat with him. So they're paddling. They're going towards a destination along the river. And then, but they can't really see what's ahead of them. But all the way out in the distance, there's this little house, okay? And once again, the atmosphere is covered in like mist and just fog. But you can see the house in the distance because there's a light that's turned on, okay? So it's highly elevated. It seems like it's in the mountains, but he's in the water on this boat, and he's trying to get himself and her to that destination. And it seems like with this image, what I'm seeing is like, I know where I'm headed. I don't know how to get there, but I know where I'm supposed to be. Okay, like that's what this image really screams out to me about. And then I'm also hearing, it's like, follow the path. You're not supposed to map out everything. You're only supposed to, do one thing at a time. Think like 100 feet ahead of you. Take it like, one step at a time almost, or even a situation where you have to have blind faith in order to get through the murky waters. That's what it feels like to me. It feels almost as if you are thinking about or embarking on a very daunting task. You don't have all the necessary, information. You don't have everything within your toolkit, but you know exactly what the end product is supposed to look like. You know what the future is supposed to hold for you, but you don't know how to really get there. So I feel like the month of December is that, embarking on this journey where you can only see that 100 feet ahead of you. And so it's really hard to plan from one day to the next when your vision is, can only take you so far. if what's out there in the distance that you're trying to reach for or achieve or attain is floating up there in the distance, it's warm and inviting and it seems really comforting and it seems like the ultimate vision or the ultimate goal, but the path that is that's like in front of you as to how can I get there, it's very murky. And I know this is something that's really uncomfortable for a Scorpio to believe in, okay? Because you guys are very pragmatic. And I do feel like for the month of December, it's really asking you to have blind faith, to believe that there is something greater than yourself that is guiding you on this journey. And that no matter what, you're going to be able to, it's like take one step and then the next step will show itself. Okay. And it's also telling you as well, don't cross that bridge until you get there. So it's like, don't count your chickens before they hatch. So a lot of it has to do with foresight, planning as much as you can, plan within your means. And I always would, I feel like it goes without saying, like saving up for a rainy day, because you don't know what's in the distance. You don't know how far the journey really is. You don't know if that twinkling light in that little house is like, half a mile away or even like 1,000 feet ahead of you. So I do feel in this situation, it seems very murky. It seems a little bit uncomfortable. And I almost feel like for many of you, it's almost like we're already, knee deep in this. We need to do it. We need to get there. So we have no choice but to have blind faith in order to get through this journey. For some of you, I do feel like you might have recently broken up with a relationship partner and you're just trying to figure out, you're trying to figure out your bearing. Like, what's next? What's the next step? What do I do from here on out? What is my life going to look like? So you have all of these questions kind of just popping up. And I feel like you want all of those questions answered. You want to know, you want something certain, you want something to kind of like hang your hat on, you want something to ground you, to anchor you, to even like, stroke your hair and say, it's okay, everything's going to be all right. And I feel almost like this is a spiritual journey. It's really teaching you a lot about faith, having blind faith, having trust that, everything is going to work out, having trust that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and that you're on your true path. So that's all I can tell you. And so, to preface this reading, what I mentioned before, I feel like there are some major things coming into the picture, and it feels a lot like, having the rug kind of ripped out from under you, and you're going to have to find yourself again. You might be going through some type of an identity crisis. Okay, so for example, if let's say you've been a teacher for 50 years, okay, let's be realistic, let's say 30 years. And you're burnt out and you're just like, I want a career, like a changing career. And, being a teacher, being an educator was always a part of your identity. And now you're trying to figure out, who am I? Okay. Or maybe you might have been like a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad, a stay-at-home parent. And that was your identity, the caretaker, the nurturer. And then all of a sudden you might get divorced or separated. And then you're finding yourself having to go back into the labor market. And you're like, what am I good at? What are my skills? What do I want to do with my life now? Now that the other chapter of my life, which is, caretaker, homemaker, teacher, whatever it is, that identity is no longer there. What do I want to do now? So I feel like there's something here to be said. Scorpios, you guys are a fixed sign, and whatever you do it really, really well. Okay. And I feel that way strongly with a lot of Scorpios, with a lot of Virgos. Whatever you put your heart and mind to, whatever you identify as your craft, whatever it is that you do, you don't half-ass things. You do it to the best of your capabilities. You pour your heart, sweat, and tears and soul into a thing, a project, a person. You build it up from the ground, and it is the best that anyone can do. And because of it, it seems like, you leave pieces of yourself in whatever endeavor you undertake. And it's a part of your identity. Everything that you have done, you have built up, is a part of your identity because you're that perfectionistic about the things that you produce. And so when these things are kind of like, the layers of a banana, like the banana peels, when they're peeled away one by one, and we're left with this foreign, white object that is the banana without the peel. It's like, what am I now? Who am I? I do feel this sense of like an identity crisis for some of you. And then I also feel like the sense of excitement, renewal, trepidation for others of you who are willingly embarking on a new path to either change your career, to reinvent yourself, to find the next destination in your life's journey. And so what I sense is this reading could be even like split in half, okay? So there are a few more messages I'm going to relay at the end for you, but let me just go through the cards first because I feel like many of you are just like looking for answers, okay? Like, where do I step? It's almost like, that game Minesweeper. It's like an old PC game for those of you who might not be familiar with it. You click on little boxes and the boxes are like, you don't know what you're clicking on. But if you happen to click on a mine, then the whole thing explodes and then you lose. It's a really weird game and I don't feel like there's any rhyme or reason. Maybe there is. Maybe I haven't read the instructions. But it seems like a Minesweeper game. It's like, I don't want to step here. I don't want to step over there. It's almost like you're very hesitant about making a move. I feel like there's something here about like a very delicate situation where one thing can kind of trigger it or one thing can throw something off kilter or off balance, okay? So let me go through the cards. So first of all, I have here the Ten of Wands. The Ten of Wands. This is pretty much, being very laden and burdened with something, okay? The stuff that we accumulate through life, okay? This is a pack rat. This is somebody that hoards. This is somebody that has a tendency to just collect bits and pieces of scraps that they have no use for. And they look at it and they're like, oh, one day I might need that. Or one day I can put that to use. And yet the day never comes. So things just pile up. Things just pile on. I feel like for some of you, this might be you who might be trying to fill like an emotional void with stuff. Okay, so you might have like a shopping addiction. You might have a penchant for emotional spending, spending money to get your mind off something. You might hoard a lot of things to fill like an emotional void. Or you might be dealing with somebody. A lot of Scorpios are very clean, are very minimalist. Or at least, when you buy something, it usually has a function, okay? It's not just decorative. It usually serves a purpose. And so I feel like you might be dealing with somebody who's messy, who's, I want to say, like, they hoard everything. They might be a little bit greedy. They might be, like, in your eyes, a little bit selfish. I just want you to understand the mentality that or like the psychosis that contributes to this type of behavior, they're usually living in a place of scarcity where they have never had enough, so they've had to resort to hoarding because they're fearful. They're fearful of, like, losing everything and having the rug ripped out from under them and ending up with nothing. So they might, swirl away their assets. They might be very paranoid about having their things taken away. They might even be they might be even like defensive or indignant when you try to correct their behavior or you try to help them. So I do feel like you're dealing with someone who's quite difficult, and I do sense like they're messy. It's hard to get them organized. It's hard to get them motivated. They're very set in their ways, and they're also like not the neatest people to be around. Okay, so I feel that you're dealing with somebody who exhibit these behaviors. And I keep hearing like putting up with it. So you might have, gone a really long time putting up with their behavior, putting up with their, quirks, putting up with the way that they behave, putting up with them being super defensive. And, when someone tries to give them advice, they kind of lash out. Okay. And it's sort of like somebody who doesn't really have the skills, but rather than asking for help, they're just indignant. They're like defensive, indignant, closed off, doesn't want to, possibly even very proud, and they don't want to appear vulnerable. So I feel here, this is a situation where somebody needs help. And I feel that you're getting frustrated with this person. For some of you, this could be like a very stubborn child, okay? For others of you, this could be a very stubborn parent. Siblings, I'm hearing for some of you. It's somebody who has a lot of faults. Let's just be honest here. They have a lot of faults, but they're refusing to admit their faults. They're refusing help. They're refusing your advice. They're just like reckless even. I have the Fool on top of the Ten of Wands, which indicates to me it's somebody who's like caution to the wind, okay? Throw caution to the wind. I don't care. I'm just going to do things my way. It's like jump in first, ask questions later. So you're dealing with somebody like this, and I feel like it is a major source of frustration for you, okay? So this is coming out bright and early in the beginning of December. This is not going to permeate, the rest of December. But I do feel this might be a very important character in your life, because once you guys form emotional connection with a person, a friend, a family member, a lover, your own parents even, once you form those emotional connections, you hold that person in your inner sanctum, and this person becomes like a very important fixture in your life. And so there's a lot of frustration in dealing with somebody like this, who it's almost like they don't see a way out. They're too proud to admit their mistakes. They're too proud to ask for help. Okay. I feel like in a spiritual way, their soul, their heart is really screaming out for help. Okay. I do feel there's some emotional issues here associated with this person. They need help. They're really screaming out for help, and they want you to be patient with them. If in their physical form, they're not able to tell you this, in their spiritual form, they want to tell you, help me. You're strong enough. You're organized enough. And you're loving and caring enough. And I don't know how to ask for help in my human form, but I'm asking you for help in my spiritual form, in spirit form. And it's showing up here in the Six of Cups. Okay, this is a very strong spiritual connection, emotional connection that you have with this person. They're screaming out for help. And so I would say slow down and heed the signs, heed the warning signs. This person needs something from you. And, they were fighting it, okay? Seven of Wands, being super defensive. They were fighting it. They were thwarting your advances, or thwarting your advice, or, shrugging it off or blowing you off. But like, I just feel there's a situation here where don't be too quick to get frustrated with this person. I know that, you know, a lot of the times when we have an emotional history with somebody, they know how to push our buttons, right? And they know how to strike us where it hurts. But I feel like there's somebody screaming out for help here. Not physically, but emotionally. They need some help. And I feel like for some of you, you might have resentment towards this person. And rightfully so. But I do sense that if everyone in their life has tried to help them and hasn't made any traction, hasn't had any successes, you are probably in the best position, because as emotionally wrapped up as you are in this person, you're also very, very sensible when you give out advice. And so you might be in the best position to help this person, okay? So enough about that. I'm going to try to clear up this energy so that we can move on, because I feel like, this shouldn't be taking the majority of your time for the month of December. We have bigger things here that are at stake, okay?